Hello, today is January 31st, and today we're reading from our first reading for the fifth Sunday after Epiphany. Our first reading is Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lofty, and the hem of his robe filled the temple. Seraphs were in attendance above him, each had 6 wings. With 2 they covered their faces, and with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. The pivots on the thresholds shook at the voices of those who called, and the house filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me! I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. Yet my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphs flew to me, holding a live coal that had been taken from the altar with a pair of tongs. The seraph touched my mouth with it, and said, Now that this has touched your lips, your guilt has departed, and your sin is blotted out. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, Here am I, send me. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. This passage from Isaiah comes from the beginning, or close to the beginning of Isaiah's career. And so this is, in some sense, one of the first of a series of visions, and it is the largest, literally earth-shaking vision that Isaiah has. I'm struck, and I think the imagery here should strike you that God is here represented as extremely transcendent. God is big. God is powerful. God is mysterious. The Lord sitting on a throne high and lofty, with the hem of his robe filling the temple. God is holy. God. The whole earth is full of his glory. And in response to that is in response to the imagery, to the pivots of the thresholds. These are extremely heavy stone pivots in the temple that are shaking at the voices of the angels who are singing of the Lord of hosts. The hosts are singing about the Lord of hosts. There is an escalation of imagery here. In response to a God of power, I think Isaiah has a very normal reaction. Isaiah is terrified. This is a terrifying, immense vision of the divine, of who God is. And it should come as no surprise that Isaiah is not only terrified, but he is deeply worried about his own unworthiness. I think this is understandable. You have here a God of power, a God of holiness. And if you know that you are, as he says, a man of unclean lips, who lives among a people of unclean lips, then you might think, I'm not going to be here very long. This is it for me. This is the way it ends. And Isaiah, of course, and so he says, "Woe is me." Here we have one of the key themes in Isaiah, and I'd say one of the key themes of Scripture, which is the distance between the human and the transcendent, between the personal, the earthly, perhaps, if we want to use that term, and the eternal. That we are talking about something on a cosmic scale, and it isn't just a matter of ratcheting up, that God is up here and we're here, and so you could climb the ladder conceivably. No, we're talking about two different types. We're talking about two distinct categories. We're talking about the quite honestly, the sacred and the profane. And Isaiah, he knows where he falls. He is profane. His lips have said profane things. His people, they are not a sacred people. And so Isaiah, very understandably, given the immensity of this vision of God, he despairs because the distance between the human and the divine is unbridgeable. The human cannot reach the divine. There is no spiritual practice, there is no law that can connect us to the divine. There isn't. It's unbridgeable. So Isaiah despairs. And then the text in verse 6 resolves the despair because the text is pointing to a transcendent God, and the text has something to say to a profane people, to an unclean people. That bridge has to be built. And the bridge is built not by Isaiah. He is not capable of bridging it himself. That bridge is crossed by the angel. His bridge is crossed by God. We have an imagery of an angel plucking a coal, a live coal, hot coal, from the altar and touching it to Isaiah's lips, as if burning away his uncleanness, his sin, as if burning away uh, Isaiah's profane nature, as if making him, bringing him closer to the divine, bridging that gap. And this is for a purpose, because the voice of the Lord needs a human representative. The voice of the Lord needs to send a messenger with a message. And so Isaiah, having been cleansed in this fiery image, in this fiery ritual, can step forward. And so what does this text have to say to us? Well, for me, I think it says that there is a distance between us and a transcendent God. If we are talking about a creator God, if we were talking about a God that has some meaningful role in the shaping of the universe, whatever that might mean, then we're talking about something of a type totally other than us. We are mortals. We live our span of years, and the words we say, the deeds we do, they are ultimately temporary. So there is a distance. This text also says, and I think all of Scripture says, that God of transcendence is, however, not, that God of transcendence is not unconcerned about us, even though we are temporary, even though our lives pass as the seasons pass. That God of transcendence is intimately concerned with the lives and the well-being of, of a mortal people. And so that God of transcendence takes the initiative, bridges the gap. For us, Scripture is what we call revelation, is reliant on the divine having bridged the gap between creator and creation, taking the initiative, and in that connection between the human and the divine, we have the sacred stories of Scripture. Through them, we understand something about God and we understand something about ourselves. And so in Isaiah, he had something to say to his people. For us as Christians, in the person of Christ, God did that again, bridged the gap between a transcendent cosmic God and the human in the most intimate, closest way possible, in the person of Jesus. That is what we have in Jesus, this bridging of the gap that is in Isaiah in the most powerful way possible. And it is to a purpose. The same things that Isaiah has to say about social injustices, against military adventurism, for justice and against oppression. That is what the message of Jesus is about too. I hope you are having a good week. I hope you're staying healthy, and I hope you're staying warm. Okay, bye-bye.